The warning sirens screamed across Seoul's military command center as Captain Lee Min-ho stared at the radar screens. 12 massive objects had appeared at the edge of the solar system just 3 hours ago. They moved faster than anything humanity had ever built. Each ship was the size of a small city. "Sir, we're getting readings I've never seen before," reported Lieutenant Han Ji-soo from her station. Her voice shook as she read the numbers. "Their energy signatures are off our charts. These ships could power entire countries." Lee gripped his coffee cup tighter. The hot liquid had gone cold an hour ago, but he barely noticed. Earth's entire space fleet was moving to intercept the alien vessels. 27 ships carrying humanity's best weapons and bravest crews. It should have been humanity's finest hour. Instead, it felt like watching children with toy guns face a hurricane. Admiral Vexitar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive human vessels approach. His four eyes studied the tactical display with the casual interest of a scientist observing insects. The human ships moved in predictable formations that any first-year military student could counter. "Look at their propulsion systems," laughed Commander Zalthok, pointing at the chemical rockets pushing the human ships forward. "They're still burning fuel to move. How wonderfully primitive." Vextar's translator device picked up human radio communications. The aliens listened as Earth's captains coordinated their attack plans using simple radio waves. No quantum encryption, no psionic networks, just basic electromagnetic signals that anyone could intercept. "They're planning to fire projectile weapons at us," reported the ship's tactical officer. "Metal slugs accelerated by chemical explosions. Should we raise shields?" "Why bother?" Vextar replied with amusement. "Let them waste their ammunition. I want to see what these creatures consider warfare." Back on Earth, General Park Soo-jin watched the battle unfold from deep inside NORAD's command bunker. The reinforced walls around her had survived decades of preparation for nuclear war. Today they felt as thin as paper. She had spent 30 years climbing the ranks of Korea's military. She had planned for invasions, terrorist attacks, and natural disasters. She had never planned for this. "General, our ships are in firing range," announced Major Kim Dong-hyun. "Captain Peterson is requesting permission to engage." Park looked at the main screen showing Earth's fleet arranged in perfect attack formation. Months of planning had gone into this moment. Every captain knew their role. Every weapon was loaded and ready. It should have been enough. It had to be enough. "Permission granted," she said quietly. "All ships, weapons free." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Railguns launched metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Nuclear missiles streaked toward the alien ships, trailing fire and hope. Laser weapons designed to cut through the strongest armor focused their beams on enemy targets. For 30 seconds, space lit up with humanity's fury. Every weapon Earth had ever dreamed of building screamed toward the alien fleet. It was beautiful and terrible and completely useless. The alien ships didn't even slow down. Vextar watched the human weapons approach with scientific curiosity. The projectiles moved fast by primitive standards but seemed frozen compared to the speeds his people were used to. The nuclear weapons carried impressive chemical energy, but nothing compared to antimatter warheads or quantum destabilizers. "Activate tractor nets," he ordered calmly. "Bring their ships here gently. I don't want to damage our new specimens." Blue energy fields reached out from the alien vessels like giant hands. They grabbed the human ships and pulled them forward as easily as a child collecting toys. The human crews fired their engines at maximum power trying to break free. They might as well have been trying to move mountains with their bare hands. Captain Lee watched in horror as the fleet's flagship was pulled helplessly toward the alien formation. Radio channels filled with panicked voices as Earth's best pilots lost control of their ships. The aliens were toying with them. "This is Captain Chen aboard the Washington," crackled a voice over the radio. "Our engines are at full power, but we're being pulled forward. All weapons ineffective. The enemy hasn't even damaged us. They're just playing with us." One by one, Earth's ships went silent as the aliens disabled their weapons and communication systems, not destroyed, just turned off like unplugging a television. The greatest military force humanity had ever assembled was defeated without the aliens breaking a sweat. Dr. Yoon Hana sat in her laboratory at Seoul National University, watching the news coverage with growing fascination. While the world panicked, her scientific mind analyzed every detail of the alien technology. The tractor beams operated on principles that human physics barely understood. The ship hulls seemed to absorb and redirect energy rather than blocking it. Most interesting of all, The aliens fought like they were collecting butterflies, not conquering enemies. "They're not trying to destroy us," she murmured to her assistant. "They're studying us. This isn't an invasion. It's a research expedition." The alien fleet moved into Earth orbit as if they owned the space around the planet. Human satellites went dark as the aliens took control of Earth's communication networks. Television broadcasts worldwide suddenly showed the same image. Admiral Vextar's alien face looking down at humanity with something that might have been pity. "People of Earth." His translated voice echoed across every TV, radio, and computer on the planet. "You have shown admirable courage but primitive technology. Your resistance is noted but unnecessary. Submit to the galactic hegemony and your species will be protected and guided to proper civilization." General Park felt something cold settle in her stomach as she listened to the aliens' words. Protected, guided. The tone was not cruel, but it was absolutely certain. These beings spoke to humanity the way adults spoke to misbehaving children. The surrender came within 6 hours. Not because Earth's leaders were cowards, but because continued resistance would have meant the death of millions for no purpose. The aliens had demonstrated their power without firing a shot. Earth's weapons were toys. Earth's defenses were paper. Earth's people were now subjects of an interstellar empire they had never known existed. As alien ships landed in major cities around the world, Captain Lee Min-ho began writing his report on humanity's first and last space battle. He tried to find words to describe how completely outclassed they had been, how the aliens had defeated Earth's entire military without seeming to try. What he didn't know was that General Park Soo-jin was already making other plans. Deep underground, away from alien eyes, she was gathering a very different kind of soldier. People who didn't understand the meaning of surrender. People who would rather die fighting than live kneeling. The aliens thought they had conquered humanity in a single day. They had no idea that the real war hadn't even started yet. 3 years had passed since the aliens arrived. Ambassador Kim Ji-woo walked through the marble halls of the United Nations building in New York, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. The building looked the same as it had before first contact, but everything else had changed. Alien observers sat in every meeting. Alien technology monitored every conversation. Alien ships hung in the sky above every major city like metal clouds that never moved. Kim carried a folder full of tribute reports in her arms. Food shipments to alien colonies, raw materials for alien factories, human workers for alien construction projects. The numbers made her sick, but she kept her face calm and professional. The aliens expected perfect cooperation from their newest subjects. "The monthly tribute is ready for transport," she announced to the hegemony overseer, a tall creature named Kelvash whose skin looked like polished stone. "Earth's production quotas have been met ahead of schedule." Kelvash barely looked up from his data pad. "Acceptable. Your species continues to prove that early submission was the correct choice. Other worlds required orbital bombardment before they understood their place." Kim nodded politely while imagining what it would feel like to punch the alien's smug face. 3 years of practice had made her very good at hiding her thoughts. "We are grateful for the hegemony's guidance and protection." The alien made a sound that his translator turned into laughter. "Protection from what? Your own primitive nature? The galaxy is safer with humans under proper supervision." Deep beneath the Australian desert, Colonel Cho Hyun crawled through a tunnel barely wide enough for his shoulders. The passage led to a hidden chamber carved from solid rock 300 meters underground. No alien sensors had detected this place. No alien eyes had seen what was growing in the darkness below. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern lit by soft blue lights. Hundreds of people worked at computer stations, weapon benches, and training areas. They wore no uniforms and carried no flags. They were soldiers, scientists, engineers, and criminals united by a single shared belief. The aliens had made a mistake. "Status report," Cho said to Captain Song Yuna, who was cleaning a rifle that looked nothing like any weapon Earth's military had ever used. "We've completed testing on the new projectile design," Song replied. "Dr. Yoon's modifications work perfectly. The aliens' shields are designed to stop energy weapons and slow-moving objects. They don't know how to handle fast-moving solid metal." Cho picked up one of the new bullets. It looked ordinary except for the strange blue metal coating that Dr. Yoon Hana had developed. "How fast?" 15% of light speed when fired from the new railguns. The alien shields try to slow it down, but the bullet cuts through them like they're not even there.." In her laboratory hidden behind a fake wall in Seoul National University, Dr. Yoon worked late into the night studying alien technology. The hegemony had given human scientists access to some of their older equipment, thinking it would help Earth develop faster. They had no idea that Yoon was learning how to destroy it. She held up a piece of alien armor plating and smiled. The material was incredibly strong against heat and energy attacks. It could stop a nuclear explosion without getting a scratch, but when she had tested it against a simple steel hammer, the plate had cracked like an egg. "You built your defenses to fight other aliens," she whispered to herself. "You never thought about fighting humans." Her assistant, Dr. Bei Wu-jin, looked up from his own work. "The particle analysis is complete. Their hulls are designed to absorb and redirect energy, but they've never faced kinetic weapons moving this fast." Yoon nodded and made notes on her computer. Every piece of alien technology had the same weakness. It was built to fight wars the way civilized species fought wars: clean, efficient, predictable. The aliens had forgotten how to fight dirty. Above ground, the world continued its normal routine. Humans went to work, attended school, and watched television shows that were now approved by alien censors. Most people had accepted their new reality. Earth was part of a galactic empire now. Resistance was impossible. The aliens were too powerful. General Park Soo-jin read intelligence reports in her official office at the South Korean Defense Ministry. The aliens allowed her to keep her rank and title, but she was no longer allowed to command real military forces. Her job now was to help organize human workers for alien construction projects. The reports on her desk told the story of a broken world. Alien patrol ships visited every major city once per week. Human military bases had been converted into alien supply depots. Earth's space program had been shut down permanently. Humanity was supposed to feel grateful for this guidance toward civilization. What the reports didn't mention was the second set of files Park kept in a hidden safe behind her bookshelf. Reports from people who were not giving up. Scientists who studied alien weaknesses, engineers who designed new weapons, soldiers who trained in secret caves and abandoned mines. The aliens thought they were watching humanity carefully. They counted the tribute shipments and monitored the major cities. They intercepted radio transmissions and tracked internet activity. But they had no idea how many humans were working in shadows they couldn't see. Commander Lim Jae-ho stood in a training facility built inside an abandoned subway tunnel in Seoul. 50 volunteers practiced fighting, techniques that no military academy had ever taught. They learned to keep fighting after being shot, stabbed, or burned. They practiced using broken equipment as weapons. They studied how to turn any room into a battlefield. "The aliens expect us to surrender when we're hurt," Jae-ho told his students. "They expect us to stop fighting when our weapons break. They expect us to behave like rational soldiers." He picked up a piece of broken metal from the floor and showed how it could become a knife. "We're going to disappoint them." The volunteers trained in silence, learning to communicate with hand signals and facial expressions. The aliens could intercept radio signals and hack computer networks, but they couldn't read human thoughts. Not yet. Above them, Counselor Rathel filed his quarterly report on Earth's integration into the hegemony. The document praised humanity's quick adaptation to galactic civilization. It noted the complete absence of organized resistance. It recommended reducing the hegemony's presence on Earth, since the humans clearly posed no threat. "The humans are model subjects," Rathel dictated to his computer. "They show no signs of technological advancement beyond approved levels. Their military leaders cooperate fully with hegemony directives. Recommend reassigning the Third Fleet to more troubled sectors." The report was approved within hours. Half the alien ships guarding Earth received orders to patrol other parts of the galaxy. The remaining forces felt confident that humanity was completely under control. They had no way of knowing that thousands of humans were gathering in hidden places across the planet. No way to detect the new weapons being built in secret factories. No way to understand that humanity was not adapting to conquest. Humanity was preparing for revenge. The aliens had made the same mistake that every powerful empire eventually made. They had started believing their own propaganda. They thought that overwhelming force would create permanent submission. They forgot that some species don't know how to stay conquered. In 3 years of occupation, not a single human had died fighting the aliens. The hegemony took this as proof that Earth was pacified. What they didn't realize was that the humans were saving their deaths for when they would count the most. 5 years after first contact, Sergeant Major Lim Jae-ho stood before 200 volunteers in a cavern that used to be a coal mine. The men and women facing him came from every branch of Earth's former military. They were soldiers, pilots, engineers, and medics who had one thing in common. They refused to accept defeat. "Today you stop being human soldiers," Jae-ho announced, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "Today you become something the galaxy has never seen before. You become honey badgers." The volunteers looked confused. Some had heard rumors about the new unit, but nobody knew exactly what it meant. Jae-ho walked to a large screen that showed a video of a small black and white animal fighting a lion 10 times its size. "This is a honey badger," he explained. "It weighs 12 kilograms. It has no armor, no weapons, no backup, but it will fight anything that threatens it. Lions, hyenas, venomous snakes. It doesn't matter how big or dangerous the enemy is. The honey badger doesn't understand the word surrender." The screen changed to show battle footage from Earth's failed defense 5 years ago. Human ships retreating, human weapons bouncing harmlessly off alien shields. The moment when Earth's military learned they were helpless. "The aliens defeated us because we fought like civilized soldiers," Jae-ho continued. "We followed rules. We used proper tactics. We tried to minimize casualties. We acted like rational military forces." He turned to face the volunteers directly. "Rational military forces surrender when they're outgunned. Honey badgers don't know what outgunned means." Captain Song Yuna stepped forward carrying a rifle that looked like it had been built from spare parts. The barrel was longer than normal weapons and covered with cooling fins. Strange blue crystals were mounted along the sides. "This is our new primary weapon," she said. "Dr. Yoon designed it based on alien technology we stole. It fires solid metal bullets at 15% of light speed. One shot can punch through an alien battleship's hull." She aimed at a target made from alien armor plating and pulled the trigger. The weapon made a sound like thunder trapped in a bottle. The target didn't just break, it exploded into dust. "The aliens' shields are designed to stop energy weapons," Song explained. "They never considered that someone might fire solid matter this fast. Their computers can't calculate a defense against something they don't understand." The volunteers stared at the destroyed target with growing excitement. For the first time in 5 years, they were looking at a weapon that could hurt their enemies. Dr. Yoon Hana appeared on a video screen, broadcasting from her hidden laboratory. "The alien technology follows logical patterns," she said. "Their shields redirect energy. Their armor absorbs heat. Their sensors track electronic signatures. Everything they build assumes their enemies will fight the same way they do." She held up a simple hand grenade with alien components attached to it. "This device uses their own power cells and targeting systems. When it explodes, their computers think it's one of their own weapons malfunctioning. They don't try to defend against it." The training that followed was unlike anything Earth's military had ever taught. The volunteers learned to keep fighting after being wounded. They practiced using destroyed equipment as weapons. They studied how to turn retreat into ambush and defeat into victory. Lieutenant Colonel Jang Min-jung taught them the most important lesson. You will be outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded. Your weapons will break. Your armor will fail. Your orders will be impossible to follow. This is when normal soldiers surrender. This is when honey badgers get angry. She showed them video footage of the animal they were named after. A honey badger with a broken leg still fighting a leopard. A honey badger covered in bee stings still raiding a hive for food. A honey badger that should have been dead hours ago still trying to bite its enemies. Aliens think logically, Min-jung explained. When they're hurt, they retreat to heal. When their weapons break, they withdraw to rearm. When they're outnumbered, they call for backup. They cannot understand creatures that get more dangerous when they're wounded. The Corps developed their own language of warfare. A honey badger moment meant continuing to fight when logic said you should quit. Going badger meant ignoring your injuries to complete the mission. A badger nest was any defensive position that was impossible to capture because the defenders refused to understand they were beaten. Captain Oh Seung-yeon trained them in what became known as impossible tactics, strategies that worked only because enemies didn't expect anyone to try them, like ramming spaceships into larger targets, like fighting hand-to-hand combat in zero gravity, like using nuclear weapons at point-blank range. The aliens have been fighting civilized wars for thousands of years, Oh explained. They know every possible strategy and have defenses for all of them. But they've never fought anything that ignored strategy completely. The first field test came when an alien patrol ship detected unusual energy readings near the Australian mining facility. Commander Kelvash sent a security team to investigate what he assumed was a human construction accident. The security team found Captain Song Yuna waiting for them with 20 Honey Badger volunteers. They carried the new weapons and wore armor made from stolen alien materials. Most importantly, they had spent months learning to think like the creatures they were named after. The aliens ordered the humans to surrender and prepare for questioning. Standard procedure when dealing with rule violations by subject species. They expected immediate compliance as they had received from every human encounter for 5 years. Instead, Song raised her weapon and smiled. "Honey Badgers don't surrender," she said. "We get even." The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, the alien security team was destroyed and their equipment was in human hands. More importantly, the galaxy's most powerful military force had lost their first engagement with Earth's defenders since the initial invasion. The aliens found the wreckage 3 hours later. The security team's final transmission described humans fighting with impossible determination and weapons that should not exist. The report made no sense to alien military analysts. How could primitive humans develop such advanced weapons? How could they fight so effectively against superior technology? Most confusing of all, how could they win a battle while taking casualties that should have made them retreat? The answer was simple, but the aliens couldn't understand it. They had created their own worst nightmare by giving humanity time to learn from their mistakes. They had awakened something that didn't exist in the civilized galaxy. Warriors who were too stubborn to lose. The emergency council meeting started at dawn. Ambassador Kim Ji-woo sat at the mahogany table in the United Nations building, staring at the document that would change everything. The Galactic Council wanted Earth to quadruple its tribute payments. Food, metals, workers, and raw materials would flow off the planet at rates that meant certain death for millions of humans. Kim had spent 6 years smiling and nodding at alien demands. She had signed papers that traded human lives for alien approval. She had spoken polite words while watching her species slowly bleed to death. Today was different. Today she was going to fight back. Counselor Rathul sat across from her, his gray skin gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He carried himself with the casual arrogance of someone who had never been told no. His species had ruled this part of the galaxy for 800 years. They expected instant obedience from lesser creatures like humans. "The new tribute requirements are quite reasonable," Rathul said, not bothering to look at Kim while he spoke. "Earth has been underproducing compared to other subject worlds. This adjustment brings your planet in line with proper standards." Kim folded her hands and spoke in the same calm voice she had used for diplomatic meetings for 6 years. "We decline the Council's request." Rathul blinked slowly, his 3 eyes focusing on her for the first time. "I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?" "Earth respectfully declines the tribute increase. Our current production levels are sustainable for our population. The proposed increases would cause mass starvation and economic collapse." The alien's mouth opened and closed silently. His translator device made confused beeping sounds as it processed concepts it had never encountered from human sources. Decline, refuse, no. These words did not exist in conversations between the hegemony and its subjects. "You seem confused about your position," Rathul said slowly. "This is not a negotiation. This is an order from the Galactic Council. Your compliance is mandatory." Kim smiled with the same expression she had worn to 1,000 diplomatic dinners. "Then I suppose you will have to enforce that order. We will be ready for you." The transmission ended with Rathul staring at a blank screen, trying to understand what had just happened. No subject species had refused a direct council order in over 3 centuries. The concept was so foreign that he had to check his translator to make sure it was working properly. Within 18 hours, Admiral Vexitar received orders to return to the Sol system with overwhelming force. His armada consisted of 200 warships carrying enough firepower to crack planets and boil oceans. The same fleet that had accepted Earth's surrender 6 years ago was returning to remind humanity why they had submitted in the first place. "This should be simple," Vexitar told his officers as they dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's moon. "Humans are emotional creatures. They saw our power once and surrendered immediately. A demonstration of force will bring them back to reason." What waited for him in Earth's orbit made no sense according to any military doctrine he understood. Colonel Cho Hyun stood on the bridge of the HSV Determination, humanity's first Honey Badger-class battleship. The vessel looked like someone had taken alien technology and rebuilt it using human stubbornness as the primary construction material. Armor plating covered weapons that should not have existed. Power systems hummed with energy patterns that violated known physics. Admiral Vexitar, Cho transmitted on all frequencies. This is Colonel Cho Hyun of the Earth Defense Corps. You are entering human space without authorization. State your business or leave immediately. Vexitar studied his tactical displays in growing confusion. 50 human ships faced his fleet of 200 vessels. The energy readings from the human craft showed technology that was impossible given their previous capabilities. Most disturbing, the humans showed no signs of retreat or surrender despite being outnumbered 4-1. Human vessels. Vexitar responded with the authority of 8 centuries of galactic dominance. You will power down your weapons and prepare for inspection. Your recent defiance of council orders requires correction. Cho's reply came back immediately. Negative, Admiral. Honey badgers don't power down. We power up. All human units, weapons free. Show them what 6 years of preparation looks like. The battle began with the aliens firing warning shots across the bows of human ships, standard procedure when dealing with rebellious subjects. The energy beams struck the human hulls and accomplished absolutely nothing. The vessels absorbed the energy and converted it directly into power for their own weapon systems. Impossible, Vexitar whispered, watching his displays show the human ships growing stronger with each shot. Our weapons are calibrated to penetrate any defensive system in the galaxy. His science officer was running frantic diagnostics on their targeting computers. Sir, the human ships are using modified versions of our own shield technology. Our energy weapons are feeding power directly into their defensive grids. The human response shattered every assumption about civilized warfare. Captain Song Yuna's ship fired a single projectile from its primary weapon. The slug crossed the distance between fleets in less than 4 seconds and punched completely through the hull of an alien heavy cruiser. The massive warship broke apart like ceramic hit with a sledgehammer. What was that weapon? Vexitar demanded, watching debris spread across his tactical screen. Solid metal accelerated to 15% of light speed. His tactical officer reported with disbelief. Our shields are designed to deflect energy and slow down incoming objects. We have no defense against kinetic weapons moving at relativistic velocities. The aliens tried to adapt their tactics, but every response was countered by human strategies that defied logic. When alien fighters attacked in coordinated formations, human pilots rammed them with damaged ships. When alien commanders tried to maintain safe distances, human vessels accelerated beyond safe limits to close the gap. Commander Bei Wujin's ship took direct hits from 3 alien destroyers simultaneously. His hull was breached in a dozen places. His life support systems failed. Half his crew was dead or unconscious. According to every military manual in the galaxy, his vessel was defeated and should surrender immediately. Instead, Bei switched to emergency power and launched his remaining missiles at point-blank range. Human Commander, an alien captain transmitted. Your ship is critically damaged. Surrender now and your surviving crew will receive proper medical treatment. Bei's response was broadcast on all frequencies so every human and alien in the system could hear it clearly. Honey badgers don't surrender when we're hurt. We get angrier. All remaining power to engines. Ramming speed. The aliens watched in horror as the crippled human ship accelerated directly toward their formation. Vexitar's fleet had enough firepower to vaporize the damaged vessel completely. But the debris would still impact their ships at tremendous velocity. He's going to ram the flagship, Vexitar said in disbelief. His ship is already destroyed. His crew is dying. Why doesn't he retreat? The answer came from every human ship simultaneously, 50 voices speaking in perfect unison. Because we are honey badgers. The alien fleet concentrated all their weapons on Bei's ship. The human vessel disintegrated under the combined fire of 20 warships, but momentum carried the wreckage forward at thousands of kilometers per hour. Twisted metal and burning fuel slammed into the alien flagship's hull with the force of a small asteroid. Both ships were destroyed in the collision, but the psychological impact rippled through the entire alien formation. They had never faced enemies who used their own deaths as weapons. Their military computers could not calculate defensive strategies against opponents who ignored their own survival. Throughout the battle zone, similar scenes played out as human crews demonstrated the core principle of honey badger warfare. Lieutenant Park Min-soo continued fighting his anti-aircraft gun while his legs were pinned under debris. Sergeant Kim Hye-jin operated her communication station with a broken arm and internal bleeding. Private Ojahun manually loaded torpedo tubes while unconscious from blood loss. The aliens had prepared for every possible human tactic except the one that humanity actually used. Refusing to acknowledge when they were beaten, human ships continued firing with broken weapons. Human crews kept fighting in compartments that had lost atmosphere. Human commanders gave orders while technically dead by any reasonable medical standard. After 3 hours of combat, Admiral Vextar ordered a general retreat. His fleet had lost 47 ships while destroying only 12 human vessels. More importantly, they had lost something that could not be replaced: their confidence in the natural order of the universe. "Admiral," his communications officer said with obvious confusion, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet commander." Vextar activated the main screen and saw Colonel Cho standing on his damaged bridge. Behind him, smoke drifted from broken consoles while crew members bandaged wounds and continued working. The human looked tired but not defeated. "This is Colonel Cho of the Earth Defense Corps," the human said calmly. "You are withdrawing from human space. This is acceptable. When you return with reinforcements, we will be waiting. Honey badgers don't know how to run away." As the alien fleet retreated toward the outer system, emergency broadcasts spread the news across Earth. Humanity had faced the galaxy's most powerful military force and won, not through superior technology or brilliant strategy, but through sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. The victory celebration lasted exactly 6 hours. Then General Park Soo-jin called an emergency meeting of all Honey Badger commanders. The real war was just beginning, and they had a galaxy to liberate. "Today we prove that humans can fight back," she announced to the assembled officers. "Tomorrow we prove that nobody else has to stay conquered either." The age of galactic empire was ending. The age of honey badgers had begun. The victory party ended at midnight. General Park Soo-jin stood in the Honey Badger Corps command center watching celebration. Crowds filled the streets of Seoul, fireworks lit up the sky while millions of humans cheered their first military victory against the aliens. Park let them celebrate for exactly 12 hours. Then she showed them what real war looked like. "Admiral Vextar will return with 10 fleets instead of 1, she told the assembled Honey Badger commanders. "The hegemony has ships we have never seen and weapons we cannot imagine. If we wait here for them to attack, we will lose everything we just won." Colonel Cho-hyun studied the star maps covering the walls of the briefing room. Red dots marked alien military bases across dozens of star systems. Each dot represented installations that had never been threatened in centuries of hegemony rule. "What do you propose, General?" he asked. Park smiled with an expression that would have made a real honey badger proud. "We do not wait for them to attack us. We attack them first, all of them, everywhere at once." Operation Honey Badger launched simultaneously in 15 star systems. Human ships appeared without warning at alien installations that had been safe for hundreds of years. The attacks made no sense by normal military thinking. Humans were assaulting targets they could not hold, fighting battles they could not win, and facing odds that should have destroyed them completely. The aliens could not understand the strategy until they realized that victory was not the goal. Terror was the goal, making every alien commander afraid that humans might appear anywhere at any time. Captain Oh Sung-yeon led the assault on Hegemony Base Kappa 7, a massive space station that supplied weapons to 3 entire alien fleets. His attack force consisted of 8 human ships, against a fortress protected by 60 vessels, and enough firepower to destroy small planets. "This is insane," whispered his weapons officer lieutenant, Park Sung-min, as they approached the target. "We cannot possibly survive this attack." Oh checked his railgun one final time and grinned like a predator seeing prey. "Surviving is not the mission. Making them afraid is the mission." The battle followed the pattern that was becoming famous throughout alien space. Human ships took terrible damage but refused to stop fighting. When their main weapons were destroyed, they fired with backup guns. When their hulls were breached, the crews operated in emergency suits. When their engines failed, they drifted toward enemy targets and exploded like guided missiles. Station Commander Vektash had fought in 50 battles across 4 decades of military service. He had never seen anything like the human attack. His defenders had superior numbers, better weapons, and stronger armor. By every rule of warfare, they should have won easily. Instead, they watched human ships continue fighting long after they should have been destroyed. One human vessel lost its main hull, but the engine section kept firing missiles. Another ship had its bridge blown away, but somehow continued maneuvering and attacking. A third craft was cut in half by alien beam weapons, but both pieces kept fighting independently. "They are not trying to capture the station," Vektash reported to his superiors with growing panic. "They are trying to prove that nowhere is safe from them." Captain O's flagship finally broke apart under concentrated alien fire after 2 hours of impossible combat. As his ship died around him, O transmitted a message that reached every alien receiver in the system. "Honey badgers do not retreat. We do not surrender. We will be back tomorrow with friends." The message was a lie. O's force was completely destroyed with no survivors. But the psychological effect was exactly what General Park had intended. Every alien commander in that sector started requesting additional defenses and backup fleets whenever human ships were detected. Lieutenant Colonel Zhang Minjung led ground assaults that redefined infantry warfare throughout the galaxy. Her troops landed on worlds that had been peaceful for centuries and fought battles that violated every principle of civilized military doctrine. They attacked targets they could not capture, rescued prisoners they could not evacuate, and destroyed equipment they could not use. On the industrial world of Rethmar, Zhang led 200 human soldiers against an alien garrison of 4,000 defenders. The battle should have ended in 20 minutes with complete human defeat. Instead, it continued for 8 hours as wounded humans kept fighting long after they should have been dead. Sergeant Kim Do-hyun took explosive fragments in both legs during the first hour of combat. Standard military procedure called for immediate medical evacuation. Instead, Kim dragged himself to a heavy weapon position and continued firing while sitting in a pool of his own blood. When alien medics offered to treat his wounds under a temporary ceasefire, Kim laughed and launched a grenade at their position. "Honey badgers do not need medical attention until the fighting is over," he shouted while reloading his weapon with hands that should not have been able to function. The aliens could not process what they were witnessing. Their medical scanners showed that Kim had lost enough blood to kill 3 normal soldiers. Their combat computers could not explain how he was still giving orders to his squad. Their military experience provided no framework for understanding warriors who became more dangerous as they became more injured. Private Lee Sun-hee found herself trapped in a supply bunker with 4 other soldiers, surrounded by 60 alien troops and completely out of ammunition. Normal military doctrine demanded immediate surrender to preserve the lives of the remaining fighters. Instead, Lee gathered explosive materials from the storage area and turned the bunker into a massive bomb. When the aliens demanded her surrender, she activated the countdown timer and smiled. "This is Lieutenant Kolvash of the Hegemony Defense Corps," an alien voice announced through loudspeakers. "You are surrounded and weaponless. Surrender immediately, and you will receive proper treatment under military conventions." Lee's response echoed through the bunker and was recorded by alien communications equipment. "Honey badgers do not understand what surrender means. Come inside and we will explain it to you." The aliens entered the bunker expecting to capture 5 helpless humans. Instead, they triggered booby traps made from their own equipment, human creativity, and complete disregard for personal safety. The explosion was visible from orbital platforms and created a crater that became a monument to human stubbornness. Dr. Yoon Hana worked around the clock developing weapons that violated every treaty governing civilized warfare. Her laboratories produced computer viruses that attacked alien networks, toxins that were harmless to humans but deadly to most alien species, and psychological warfare tools designed to spread fear faster than bullets. "The Geneva Convention was written for wars between human nations," she explained to her research teams. "It does not apply to species that enslaved our entire planet. Every weapon we do not use costs human lives we cannot save." Her greatest creation was the Badger virus, a computer program that infected alien networks and turned their own systems against them. Alien ships would suddenly fire on their allies. Defense platforms would target their own bases. Communication arrays would broadcast human propaganda instead of military orders. The virus spread through alien computer networks like wildfire because it was designed by someone who thought like a honey badger. It did not try to hide or avoid detection. Instead, it attacked everything simultaneously, causing maximum chaos before it could be contained. The psychological impact spread faster than human fleets could travel. Alien soldiers throughout the galaxy began requesting transfers away from sectors where humans might appear. Commanders started calling for reinforcements before engaging any human force regardless of size. Entire civilizations that had served the hegemony for centuries began questioning whether their protectors were strong enough to handle this new threat. On the capital world of Zeth Marai, High Counselor Mektar reviewed battle reports that defied logical analysis. Human forces were attacking throughout the galaxy, using tactics that no rational military would consider. They suffered casualty rates that should have made them retreat, fought battles they could not win, and somehow achieved objectives that were theoretically impossible. "How many soldiers do the humans have?" he asked his intelligence coordinator. "Approximately 60,000 serving in combat roles, High Counselor. Less than 0.1% of their total population." Mektar stared at the numbers in disbelief. 60,000 humans were somehow terrorizing an empire of 12 trillion citizens.
Do they possess secret technology?
Are they genetically enhanced super soldiers? No, High Counselor. They use our own technology against us, combined with tactics that no logical species would employ. They fight as if they do not understand the concept of self-preservation. The truth was spreading through alien command structures like a plague. Humanity was not winning because they were stronger or smarter than their enemies. They were winning because they refused to accept the possibility of defeat. They treated military disasters as temporary setbacks and death as just another tactical option. Most terrifying of all, they were teaching other species to think the same way. Rebellions were breaking out on worlds that had been peaceful for generations. Subject peoples who had accepted hegemony rule without question were suddenly organizing resistance movements based on human examples. The hegemony had controlled the galaxy through fear for 8 centuries. Now they were learning what it felt like to be afraid of their own subjects. The age of galactic empire was ending, one stubborn human at a time. 3 years after the first honey badger attack, Admiral Vextar sat alone in a neutral space station, waiting to surrender. The great irony was not lost on him. The same alien commander, who had accepted Earth's submission 9 years ago, was now requesting peace negotiations with the species he had once dismissed as harmless primitives. General Park Soo-jin entered the conference room wearing the simple, gray uniform of the Earth Defense Corps. No medals, no ceremonial weapons, no symbols of military glory. She looked like a teacher or office worker who happened to run the most feared military force in galactic history. Vextar found this appearance more frightening than any battle armor could have been. "Admiral," she said politely, taking the seat across from him, "I understand the hegemony has a proposal for us." Vextar studied the human who had destroyed his empire without personally firing a single shot. Park had never fought in any of the battles that broke hegemony power across the galaxy. She had simply created soldiers who did not understand the word impossible and turned them loose on an unsuspecting universe. "The Hegemony Council is prepared to discuss terms for ending current hostilities," he said carefully. His translator turned his words into perfect human speech, but it could not hide the defeat in his voice. "We acknowledge that human military capabilities were significantly underestimated in our original assessments." Park smiled with the same diplomatic expression that Ambassador Kim Ji-woo had perfected during years of hiding her true thoughts from alien overseers. "Admiral, we are not hostile toward your people. We are simply too stubborn to remain enslaved. There is an important difference. The truth was that humanity had won a war they never intended to start. The Honey Badger Corps began as a desperate resistance movement hidden in underground caves. It had evolved into something that redefined the nature of warfare throughout the known galaxy. Dozens of species that had submitted to hegemony rule for centuries were now fighting for independence using tactics learned from human examples. The Zephian Rebellion has captured 4-star systems using modified human strategies, Vextar continued, reading from his datapad with obvious reluctance. The Korthal Uprising destroyed an entire hegemony battle group by ramming damaged vessels into our command ships. 23 different species have declared independence and established what they call Badger Defense Protocols. Park nodded as if this outcome had been completely predictable from the beginning. Honey badgers are social creatures, Admiral. They teach their offspring how to survive in dangerous environments. We taught the galaxy how to fight back against bullies. The main screen in the conference room displayed territorial maps showing hegemony space 3 years ago compared to current boundaries. The alien empire had lost 58% of its territory and 74% of its military strength. More importantly, they had lost something that could not be measured on star charts. The fear that kept subject species obedient for centuries. Colonel Cho, Hyun entered carrying a simple document folder containing humanity's terms for permanent peace. He had spent 3 years commanding honey badger operations that turned the galaxy upside down. Now he was helping to establish the laws that would govern how military force could be used in the new order. The Earth Defense Corps has 4 non-negotiable requirements, he announced, opening the folder on the conference table. Complete independence for any species that requests it. Establishment of the Galactic Protection Agency to prevent future military conquests. Mandatory adoption of Badger Doctrine by all remaining military forces, and immediate trials for war crimes committed during the occupation period. Vextar's translator struggled to process the final requirement. War crimes? Cho's expression hardened as he explained. Slavery is a crime. Forced tribute that causes starvation is a crime. Bombing civilian populations into submission is a crime. The hegemony committed these acts against dozens of species over 8 centuries. There must be accountability. The admiral examined the peace terms and realized they were designed to prevent any future empire from repeating what the hegemony had done to others. These conditions would make large-scale conquest impossible. Exactly, Park replied firmly. Empires exist by convincing people they cannot resist superior force. We proved that anyone can resist if they are determined enough. Your entire business model is now obsolete. The negotiations continued for 5 days, but the outcome was never seriously in doubt. The hegemony could continue fighting and lose everything they had left, or accept human terms and retain some of their original territory under strict limitations. The mathematics of the choice became clear, once they understood that humans really were too stubborn to quit fighting. Ambassador Kim Ji-woo was elected as the first human, representative to the reformed Galactic Council 6 months later. Her years of maintaining diplomatic relations while secretly coordinating resistance efforts had prepared her perfectly for interstellar politics. She understood that civilization needed structure, but it also required protection from that structure becoming oppressive. The Council exists to prevent warfare between species, she announced during her inaugural address to representatives from 47 different worlds. Our mission is to ensure that smaller civilizations are never again dominated by larger ones. Any violation of these principles will result in immediate honey badger intervention. The mention of honey badger forces caused visible reactions throughout the council chamber. Every species had heard stories about human military tactics. Most had seen recordings of human soldiers continuing to fight while medically dead by any reasonable standard. The threat of facing such opponents was sufficient to maintain peace without actual violence. Dr. Yoon Hana converted her weapons research facilities into centers for peaceful technological development. Her teams worked alongside alien scientists to create new medical treatments, improve space travel systems, and communication networks that connected the galaxy's diverse species without favoring any particular group. We learned to fight by studying how you built tools to kill us, she explained to her new research partners during their first joint meeting. Now we can learn to heal by studying how you built devices to save lives. The underlying principles are identical, just applied in reverse. Her greatest peacetime achievement was developing universal medical technology that worked on any known species. Human doctors could now treat alien patients effectively, while alien healers could help humans recover from injuries. The same determination that made humanity impossible to defeat made them excellent at solving problems everyone else considered hopeless. Commander Lim Jae-ho established the Galactic Military Academy on a space station positioned in neutral territory between former hegemony space and the independent worlds. Students from dozens of species came to study human military doctrine, though most struggled with the psychological aspects of proper badger training. The key to effective human tactics is not physical conditioning, he explained to a mixed class of alien military cadets. Success requires mental conditioning. You must genuinely believe that surrender is not an available option, not because you are particularly brave, but because you do not understand what surrender means. A young Korthal student raised her hand with obvious confusion. But Commander, what should we do when the tactical situation makes victory mathematically impossible? Jae-ho smiled and showed the class battle footage from Captain O's attack on Hegemony Station 7. 8 human ships against 60 alien defenders, resulting in complete destruction of the human force and total mission failure by conventional measures. Victory was never the objective, he explained to his students. Creating fear was the objective. O's entire force was eliminated, but they accomplished their real mission perfectly. The station commander began requesting backup every time human ships appeared anywhere in his sector. Fear is a weapon that continues working even after you are dead. The most important change was psychological, rather than political. Throughout the galaxy, species that had accepted domination for generations began to understand that resistance was always possible. The human example demonstrated that technological superiority alone could not guarantee victory. Determination, creativity, and stubborn refusal to accept defeat could overcome any material advantage. On worlds that had been conquered centuries earlier, populations organized defense forces based on Badger Doctrine principles. They trained civilians to fight using improvised weapons and unconventional tactics. They developed strategies that assumed their equipment would fail and their leaders would be killed. Most importantly, they taught their children that free beings do not need to understand the concept of surrender. 15 years after first contact, Earth had become the unofficial military center of a galaxy that was finally learning to defend itself properly. Honey Badger Corps maintained training bases throughout known space, ready to intervene wherever conquest threatened freedom. Usually their reputation alone was sufficient to prevent conflicts before they could develop into actual warfare. General Park Soo-jin stood in her office overlooking Seoul, watching ships from dozens of different species arrive for the anniversary celebration of galactic liberation. Vessels of every size and design filled the sky above the city, all displaying small honey badger emblems as symbols of independence and determination. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson in human military history. Sometimes the only way to remain free is to be too stubborn to accept slavery. The hegemony had made the critical mistake of giving humanity enough time to figure that out. There would never be another galactic empire, because the age of honey badgers had permanently begun.